So we're going to use photop.com to make a recreation of Fong Qi Wei's landscape photography. So I've got a nice example here for you. You can see this is a landscape format photograph of a landscape, of a seascape in fact. You might be choosing a portrait format photograph, it might be a cityscape. You can choose anything you can from your contact sheet that you would like to edit in the style of Fong Qi Wei. We're obviously going to be editing this, but Fong Qi Wei will actually be photographing his scene during different times of the day. So just want to talk a little bit about how he splits up his photographs. So he tends to use diagonal lines that appear thinner at the top quite often and wider at the bottom, and they go from right to left across the photograph. He doesn't always use diagonal lines. Sometimes he uses almost sort of curved semicircle kind of lines. So have a look at some of his examples and get a little bit of inspiration from him. You will see that as we go through the day, we change from golden hour to blue hour, and then we start to lose some light. We start to become very underexposed, much darker here as we get towards the nighttime. So I'm going to show you how you might do this. Obviously, when it comes to your work, you can make some decisions, some choices of how you'd like your work to be. So go ahead and navigate to where your photographs are saved. I've got a photograph here of Cornwall. I'm going to use this photograph to help me recreate my photograph in the style of Fong Qi Wei. So a couple of things to remember in Photop or Photoshop, we need to have the history tab open so we can see what we've done and we can go back through steps if we need to. It's also really important to have the layers tab open so we can see what layer we are working on. We know which layer we're working on because it is highlighted slightly paler. We've got the marching ants around the image. We've also got the eye open. If we close the eye, we can't see the image. Okay, so we're going to start off by using the toolbar over here, and we're actually going to select from the different kinds of selection tools. We're going to select the polygonal, I can't say it, polygonal, this one here, polygonal lasso select. This is the one we're going to select. So this does straight lines. And I'm going to have a go. I want to start towards the right hand side and I want to cut a wedge across the photograph that is diagonal and slightly larger at the bottom, slightly narrower at the top. So I'm going to come out. Can you see that crosshair there? Okay, I'm going to click. I'm going to take it just beyond the edge of my photograph so you can see that white line. I'm going to click. I'm going to take it back up. I want it narrower at the top. And I'm going to click so that it joins together. That's how I get my marching ants. And then either using edit copy, edit paste, or I'm going to use the hotkey. So control copy, control paste. So control C, control V. You can see now that I've actually added that little slither onto a new layer. So if I close the eye of the background, there is the slither that I have chosen. So right in the middle at that kind of little lighthouse bit on the end of the walkway there, okay? So I'm going to repeat the process. I'm going to use this slither as a guide. So just next to that slither, just on the outside of my photograph, I'm going to go slightly wider this time, clicking and then narrower at the top, joining it up, going to get the marching ants. What I need to do now is I need to go back on my background and you can still see my polygonal shape there. I'm going to go control copy, control paste, so control C, control V, and here is now my selection. Okay, so my first selection and my second one slightly wider. Okay, so I'm going to stick on layer 2, I'm going to repeat the process. So smaller at the top, wider at the bottom, bringing it back in narrower, joining it up. So I've got my marching ants. I'm going to go back, make sure I've got my background layer open, control copy, control paste, so control C, control V, and there now I've got my third selection. So I'm just going to repeat this process. You might want to do slightly narrower shapes. you might want your shapes to be slightly different. It's completely up to you. I'm just going to do a few, otherwise we will be here all day. Okay, so layer 3, layer 4, I've got them muddled up. I'm going to just change the layers around because I've got them muddled up. Okay, layer 4 I want to be on. Okay, so slightly wider again. Join it up. Make sure you are on the front one. Control copy, control paste. Now we've got layer 5. Okay, still narrow at the top. Taking it beyond your photograph so that you get a nice clean shape. Join up the marching ants. Back to here, control copy, control paste, layer 6. Here we are, carrying on now. Can't join it up. Oh, there you go, couldn't join it up for a second. Copy, control paste, layer 7. For some reason it keeps changing the order. There we go, layer 7. Joining up, making sure we're back on this layer. Control copy, control paste, layer 8. Nearly there. So I've gone quite thick with my lines because I want the demonstration to be quite quick for you. You might like your lines to be a little bit closer together. That's absolutely fine. You might like them to be at a slightly different angle. Again, that is absolutely fine. You make the decisions. I'm going to do one more layer. There we go. I want to be in this layer, don't I? One more layer. Start that again. Start that again. Select, deselect. Right, concentrate. There we go. Join it up. That's our last layer. Control copy, control V. So I've done 11 layers, including my background layer. So what you should be able to see is if I close all of the eyes, you can see how that photograph is just taking us through the little snippets. Okay, so we want to start on the very background layer, and we're going to go image, adjustments, and we're going to go hue, saturation. Okay, so here's my hue saturation tab here. I'm going to take the lightness down because actually what I want is it to be, as we go through to the end of the day, almost into the night. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go back to the first layer, and I'm going to take that down a little bit darker. There we go. Okay. Layer 10. Again, image, adjust, hue saturation. Taking the lightness down, maybe not so much this time. Okay. And you're just going to work your way through. You can use your hotkeys if you want to here as well. You're going to work your way through those layers so that we get a slightly different graduation of colour. At one point, you might decide, actually, I'm going to use colour balance instead of the lightness, and perhaps you might want to take the yellow down a little bit so that we're starting to maybe get into perhaps where we shift from blue hour to golden hour or golden hour to blue hour. So you can start to bring that in as well. So it's colour balance, and we're taking the yellow, blue down, and you should be able to see that just changing very slightly there. I don't know why that one's not. Let's do it again. Maybe we're on the wrong layer. Okay, image, adjust, colour balance, take the yellow, blue down. There you go, you can see it there. Okay, so obviously I am just showing you the possibilities you will be able to adjust your photographs in the way that you would like to, so that you get that beautiful Fong Qi Wei effect. Once you have finished and you're happy with everything, obviously you might want to tweak it a little bit. You might want to go back. You might want to make some areas a little bit darker because perhaps you haven't gone as bold as you could have done. You can do a little bit of tweaking wherever you want. So back to hue saturation, take it a little bit darker. I think I would be a bit brave the next time round. Once you've tweaked everything and you're happy with it, you're going to go layer, flatten image, and obviously then you go back to your one layer here. You might just want to play around a little bit with the brightness and the contrast, so you might just want to sharpen it up a little bit, okay? And then you can export your photograph, so you're going to export it as a JPEG. Make sure you've given it a name here, so it might be landscape study or Fong Qi Wei study, and you're going to save that as a JPEG and pop that into your slides. Remember, when you are doing your work, you also need to do a step by step. It may not be that you might want to do absolutely every single layer. You might just want to show us 2 or 3 layers as they've been added. So you might want to do a screenshot as you've used the polygonal tool. You might want to do a screenshot when you've used the hue saturation and taken the lightness down. You might want to do a screenshot when you've used the color balance and taken the blue down to more yellow. If you forget, obviously you can use your history tool and you can go back and take screenshots. You can't do that once you've closed an image, so you can only do that whilst you've got your image open and saved. When you've had a go and you're happy with your image, in your slides you're going to need your step-by-step and your final Fong Qi Wei recreation, please. Okay.